Whether it means going back to school for an undergraduate or graduate degree or not, what are some viable careers one can start in their 30s? Story 1. You would want specialized professions such as technology, software, engineering, healthcare, law, and accounting. There are many niches within each particular field. Even some trades can make good money after you get proper certifications and experience. Story 2. I became a union electrician in my 30s with no previous experience. Pay scale depends on where you live. Big cities are great, rural and right to work for less states not so much. Here in Chicago, we make $55.55 per hour with excellent benefits. If you work 40 hours per week, that's over $110,000 per year. But there are also many opportunities for overtime. I was out of work for about a month this year, but then I was working 10-hour days over the summer. You can travel to where there is booming work. Some places have 7 days a week, 12-hour jobs with incentives, but I'm not into that. 40 hours is usually good for me, but you have options. You do a 5-year apprenticeship, starting at 40% of a journeyman's wage, and it goes up 5% every 6 months until you reach the full rate. Story 3. Semiconductors. A ton of fabrication facilities will hire you with no experience. But you probably will not make $100,000 out of the gate, and it depends on where exactly you land within said company. Story 4. I started in a new industry, community services, in my 30s. 6 years later, I am in upper management and earning over $100,000. I was a stay-at-home mother for many years, so I was out of the workforce for a significant amount of time and started right at the bottom. Story 5. Realistically make $100,000 or more. Realistically make $100,000 or more. Salary will vary by location, a lot. $100,000 is entry-level for some degrees in high cost of living areas, but even an advanced degree might not fetch $100,000 if the location is relatively inexpensive for labor. Some ideas based on titles from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Story 6. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. It might take a few years and depend on your area. I'm just about to get out of my apprenticeship, and I'm still making $56,000 a year because the company likes my work. Story 7. Airline pilot, but man, you have to really want it. If you are not passionate about aviation, the odds are against you making it. It is a tough job to get started in, but once you break through, I feel it is the best job in the world. Story 8. I would say specialty welder. A friend of mine has all the documents and is certified for welding high-pressure water and gas lines. From what I see and hear, they make good money. Pretty much every blue-collar job has at least some point where you make more than $100K, but you have to work towards it. Get the certifications and be open to working odd hours. They pay you more than regular 9 to 5 jobs are probably going to be. Law, sales, business owner can be 9 to 5, but from my experience, it is more like a 5 to 5 job. Specialist jobs in the pharmaceutical industry, and of course, engineer at a defense company mostly. Story 9. If you don't have family or external responsibilities other than yourself, you can do literally anything, at least in your early 30s. I'm currently 30 and feel like if I didn't have a family to work for, I would have a significantly better chance of both sticking to and achieving any goal rather than at any point in my 20s. Story 10. Firefighter and paramedic, depending on the region you work in. Total training can be completed in under 2 years, and many departments will hire you and pay for all your schooling. There is a shortage in many areas, and positions are less competitive than they used to be. Story 11. Commercial diving, especially activities such as saturation diving, involves working really deep underwater. It is dangerous and requires a very specific personality type, but if you are okay with no work-life balance for a while, you can earn $250,000. Story 12. Started in information technology about 3 years ago, at 30. Got a couple of certifications related to cloud administration and went from $40,000 to $115,000 in those 3 years. Love my job, and it only took 3 career changes to figure out something I liked and that could actually pay well. Story 13. If you don't have a life and don't mind working most of your waking hours, the United States Postal Service as a mail carrier can be an option if you live in a high-demand area. Unless things have changed in the last couple of years, as a city carrier assistant, You'll be doing mandatory 12 to 16-hour days, 6 or 7 days a week. I lasted 3 weeks. I couldn't drive for that long. My brother loved it, and when he started, I think he was clearing over $120,000 easily for his first 2 years. After 2 years, you become a regular and you can choose to only work 40 hours. He got married, so he chose to take the normal 40 hours per week schedule. I also hear either United Parcel Service or Federal Express makes very good money too if you're willing to put in the hours. But driving for a living was so mentally draining for me. Story 14. My friend finished a 3-month welding training program when he was 32. After 1 year of work as a welder, he's now the leader of a 5-man team and on a very good way to make $100,000. Story 15. Reverse osmosis or deionized water industry. It is niche, but it is extremely critical to pharmaceuticals, hospitals, and electronic manufacturing. I have been in the field for 8 years now, and it is not even close to the hardest working job I have had. Story 16. Air traffic controller. No degree needed. They pay for your training. Tough to complete, but worth it if you have the mindset and want that high salary. Story 17. I enrolled into nursing school at 31. I am 36 now and will be earning 6 figures for the 2nd year in a row. I work in one of the better states for it, on the West Coast, and it is unionized, which is a big reason for that. Story 18. Any really. It might be tougher to go for careers that require a lot of education and training, but 30s are the new 20s. If you want a fast track to $100,000 though, I say go with technology. You can pick up programming in a matter of weeks and get really good at it in a matter of months. If you have the skills and can effectively sell yourself, most places do not care about education. The problem is that it will be harder to get your foot in the door because recruiters will likely toss out your resume if you do not have the experience or education. Story 19. Go for something that is low stress on your mind and especially on your body. Information technology, sales, and management are your best bet. Very dependent on the company though, so do your research and don't be afraid to change jobs. Story 20. Customer Success Manager or Onboarding Specialist. These are roles that are not necessarily industry-specific, and as long as you have good customer-facing experience, there's a chance you can get into this kind of job. It may not start at 6 figures, but you can get to 6 figures fairly quickly. Story 21. I work in accounting. I didn't start until I was 25, and I am 32, and I will make over $100,000 in 2025, and will be very close by the end of 2024. By start, I mean I began my first accounting class at 25 and worked full-time while taking online classes. I started by balancing tills for a hotel, restaurant, and bar combination, and now I am a partner at a small firm. Story 22. I was 26 and got an associate's degree in technology with a few certifications and pursued government contracts overseas since I'm single, have no worries, and was making about $135,000 right off the bat. I always highly recommend anything in information technology if you're specializing in a field, like networking or security, to look for jobs overseas. I feel like it's gate-kept a lot when it comes to government contracts. Story 23. I'd suggest real estate, a trade, or starting a business. Those have lower barriers to entry compared to some other options like software, law, healthcare, and so on. Story 24. All the same ones you can realistically start in your 20s, except probably medicine and related fields, since those will require you to complete residency programs. Story 25. This is a regional question, though. My friend is an art teacher at a private school in Los Angeles. There is no art teacher in the Midwest, private or not, making as much as her. Yes, the cost of living is obviously a big part of that reason, but it still needs to be factored in. $85,000 is plenty for my family to live in a nicer suburb with newer cars paid off, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom out of choice here in the Midwest. My city alone is larger than a 200,000 population. If you cannot figure out how to achieve the dollar amount you want, you should consider the government. Literally, every perk people scream for, we get. Paternity leave, all the holidays off, decent insurance, there are unions, and many positions pay well enough. Story 26. Railroad work. Track maintenance is an entry-level position, and you have the potential to make $100,000 or more very quickly, depending on seniority and available work. Note that it is a very dirty job and there is the danger of trains and other accidents, but I loved working it. Story 27. If you are willing to travel, get dirty, and work with your hands, industrial field service can pay incredibly well. Many places do not require a degree, just basic mechanical or electrical aptitude, and will train you to be proficient. Story 28. Electrician. It takes 5 years to get licensed, and if you join the union, you will be making over $50 per hour, which is $104,000 per year. If you become a foreman, which could happen quite soon after getting licensed, you will be close to $60 per hour. Plus, if you join the union while you are still an apprentice, you will have all the benefits you need from the start. Story 29. I'm only 21, but the field I'm in, landscaping, is very lucrative in my area. Many people can find themselves making 6 figures by their 30s, depending on the type of landscaping they do. Story 30. A lot of trades. Get a process technology degree from a community college and go be an operator in the plants. Starting pay at my refinery is $47 per hour. I had a lot of overtime this year, and I'll gross right close to $200,000. I went back to school at 38 years old for that degree and fast-tracked it in a single semester. But I hired in with kids that were barely old enough to drink too. Not bad work either most of the time. I plan to spend the majority of today and tomorrow inside watching football. I work Thanksgiving night, but I'll be making double time and a half. And I'll be cooking dinner at work, watching football, and hope to grab a nap for a few hours. Story 31. Drafting. 2-year degree, and if you start with the right company, you can start out at $70,000 per year. Be making 6 figures in a few years. Easy enough to do house plans on the side and make another $20,000 to $40,000 per year, depending on how busy you want to be. Story 32. A lot depends on working for someone or working for yourself. Almost any trade these days is $60,000 to $80,000 if you work for someone. This can be nice because you go to work when and where they tell you, and they worry about the rest. If you work for yourself, it's a little bit more involved, obviously, but $100,000 to $300,000 is quite possible if you want to grind and hustle. This isn't for everyone, but if you're the type, it can be a great life. Story 33. Railroad. The average of us are making $100,000 within 5 years, and starting pay is around $60,000 to $80,000. There are great benefits and retirement/pension options. It's an absolutely phenomenal choice. Story 34. Find a job paying in the high 20s per hour that offers a lot of overtime. There are warehouse jobs or even some entry-level jobs at aerospace companies that pay well and offer tons of overtime. At $27.50 per hour, averaging 60 hours a week, you'll be right around that number. Story 35. Welder, find a trade school, and if you get really good, you can write your own paycheck. Traveling welders are making incredible money, and most don't even weld most of the time. They get paid to sit around and wait for their name to be picked from the weld lottery. Story 36. A trade, specifically a Red Seal trade, electrician, plumber, ironworker, etc. My son is 21 and in an apprenticeship for custom ductwork. By the time he gets his ticket at 25, he will be making between $150,000 to $200,000 per year. If he starts his own business, he can be a millionaire by the time he's 30. It most certainly can be done. How hard are you willing to work for it? Story 37. Maintenance technician. There are technical degrees you can get that help, but just try to find someone willing to hire and train you. Work for a couple of years there, then move on to a higher paying place. Story 38. I started welding school back in August. I am pretty sure I have developed carpal tunnel because of it, though. Pretty bummed because they can make good money. Story 39. Make $100,000 at what point? I work at an advertising agency that I started in my 30s and have gotten to that level after 12 years or so. That's a lot of promotions and top performance, though. Story 40. Not anything in any creative field. I have had to grind it out for 20 years just to make it to $120,000 a year, which is not bad, it just took a long time to get here. Story 41. If you are wanting a degree and the challenge that comes with that, I recommend engineering. There is a huge shortage of certain engineers and an even bigger shortage of talented engineers. If you do not want the degree or the traditional classroom does not appeal to you, I suggest going into a trade. Being an electrician, plumber, and so on can command a higher wage than 90% of college degrees. In any case, you will have to do good work to make over $100,000. Story 42. I started in technology sales in my early 30s without a college degree. I started around $50,000, was making over $100,000 early into year 3, and mid $200,000 in year 5. I have been in that range since. Story 43. My current manager was a musician in his 20s. He went back to school at 29, got an engineering degree by 33, and is now the department head of 30 people at a big firm. Top guy, I really appreciate his advice. Story 44. I'm a nurse in California. In my first job, I made $90,000 pre-tax. I moved to a much bigger hospital with a union and now make $120,000 pre-tax in the same area. I can work plenty of overtime. Story 45. Sales. Selling requires very little education and mostly just talent for talking to people. There are huge opportunities for personal growth and development as a person as well. But there is literally nothing you can do to walk in the door and make $100,000. Anything that promises that falls under the category of get-rich-quick schemes. In life and work, you have to start at the bottom, at nearly nothing, and make progress toward goals. A person who doesn't have the patience to build a career or a business is never going to amount to anything.